I've got 10 seasons to win the Champions League. But I have to start the journey as an unemployed manager with 0 coaching badges. Now, we need to get a job ASAP, but for that to happen, we need some managers to get sacked. So I simulated forwards to Sacktober, but there weren't many jobs available. Only Welling United in England's 6th division offered me a job. They want a manager who will meet expectations. And before they could tell me what those expectations are, I said I back myself to succeed and I'll meet them. It also sounds like they want me here for the long term, so I told them that it's my intention to have a long and successful career with the club, which is a massive lie. We need to be ruthless in this challenge, constantly moving to different clubs if we're going to win the Champions League. And to really cement myself as the favourite for the job, when they said, "Can we finish mid-table?" I told them that we can challenge for the playoffs. I may have lied through my teeth, but it worked. A few days later, they offered me the job. Welling are currently 15th in the National League South, but only 7 points away from the playoffs, and there is plenty of time left in the season to push ourselves up there. I decided a back 5 is the best way to set this team up, pushing our wing-backs high up the pitch to support our attackers. Tristan Abrahams is arguably our best player, and we're relying on him to fire us up the table. But just 2 minutes into our first game in charge, we conceded a goal to Maidstone United. We tried to get back in the game, but whatever we tried, whether it be Grant's shot from distance or Taylor Crosdale's effort from a 6-yard area, we just couldn't score. Despite being the way stronger side, we're behind at the break. Then just 3 minutes into the second half, we managed to hit the crossbar. It's just one of those days. And it seemed like it again when moments later, we hit the crossbar again. But Maidstone fouled our player trying to get the rebound, so we were given a penalty, which Tristan Abrahams went on to score. 5 minutes later, the ball was floated over the top for Taylor Crosdale to find an open Abrahams to give us the lead. And we rounded off the match when Taylor Crosdale put another cross to the back stick for TJ Bramble to head home, giving us a 3-1 victory in our first game in charge. Abrahams only scored once more before Christmas, but it was the winner in a 3-2 victory over Boreham Wood. Instead, Zane Walker was the man scoring goals. He'd been injured for the Maidstone game, but now he's back in the side, he could not stop scoring, as we won 5 of our next games in the run-up to December 25th. That sees us rise up to 5th place on Christmas Day, where I was given the most wonderful present, a coaching course, which will improve my attributes and make it easier to get a better job. In the new year, Tristan Abrahams got back into scoring form, as for the most part, we just kept winning games. The team were performing way better than I'd expected. When I told the board that we can make the playoffs, I was only saying what they wanted to hear. But we've actually pulled it off, finishing 3rd in the table. The way the playoffs work in the National League means we go straight into the semi-finals. Here, Chippenham Town made a monumental error, allowing Taylor Crosdale to tackle the defender on the goal line before he doubled his tally and sent us to the final with a wonderful strike. But if we want promotion, we have to beat Boreham Wood in the playoff final. 10 minutes in and they forced our keeper into a worldie of a save from a free kick. And 33 minutes in, he was forced to make another huge save, this time from close range. So at the break, the scores are level, but we're the side on the back foot. But we started the second half brightly. A corner didn't beat the first man, but the ball was sent back to Borg, who had his effort tipped over by the keeper. Then Zane Walker went on a mazy dribble to get the ball into the penalty area, but his shot just missed the target. And Borg had a great effort from a free kick. It was just too high. But maybe he was just finding his range, because not long after that, he put his next free kick right into the top corner, giving us the lead and victory. In Season 1, we've taken over at Welling and earned them promotion. But remember, we now only have 9 seasons left to win the Champions League, so we need to be ruthless. So armed with my newly acquired National C licence, there are 2 jobs I'm eyeing up. Fleetwood just avoided relegation from League 2, whereas Doncaster lost in the League 2 playoffs. So I applied for both of them, but they both turned me down. They just don't think I'm ready yet. So for now, we're staying put. To prepare for life in the National League, we made a whole bunch of new signings, most notably former Premier League midfielder Harry Arter. The season preview expects us to finish around mid-table. but if we want to get a better job, we have to exceed that. The National B licence, which the clubs are also paying for, will help with that as well. But I'm hoping Daniel Oyatunde's goals will really push me into a new job. The former Arsenal youth player scored on his debut in a 4-2 win away at Gateshead. His first goal at home came in a huge 4-1 win against Barnet. In fact, whenever he did score, it was a good omen, because every game he scored in, we went on to win. At the halfway stage of the season, we find ourselves 6th in the National League. Surely other clubs will be tripping over themselves to make me their manager. Well, apparently not, as I wasn't even given a single interview at any club I applied for. So I'll leave it 4 months whilst I do my next coaching badge. I should also say this is unheard of. It's usually so difficult to get coaching badges at the start of the career with non-league clubs, but Welling are happy to pay for them. But maybe spending some time getting my coaching badges had a negative effect on the team as results started to slip. We lost to the likes of Yeovil, Southend, Barnet and Aldershot. All 4 of those teams ended up ahead of us in the table as we fall out of the playoff places by the end of the season. But it's still a great finish to our first season in the National League, and I did bag another coaching course. So surely some clubs will want me. If there were any suitable jobs for us to apply for, that is. Looks like we might have to wait until next season. Port Vale did come up briefly over summer, but they rejected me because I have zero experience guiding teams away from the relegation zone. Yes, because I am a winner. Hire me if you don't want to have your team anywhere near the relegation zone. Over summer, I demonstrated my ability to make big profits for my clubs. Just ignore the fact I spent £88,000 on a loan when I thought I was actually only spending £8,800 across the season. With most of the squad retained from last season, I think we should do pretty well, or at least well enough to find me a new job. We only have 8 seasons left in this challenge. Annoyingly though, we only had an okay start to the season. Our strikers were bagging goals for us, but our defence wasn't as solid as the previous campaign, as we ended up losing more games than we had at this point last time out. But we're only a point outside of the playoffs, 16 games into the season, when Sacktober was in full swing. But I was rejected by 5 League 2 clubs, not even given a single interview. And now Welling are offering me a new contract. If I take it, no club is going to want me for quite some time. But if I don't take it, there's a good chance I might be without a club in summer. But I back myself, so I walked away. But when I was also turned down for a bunch of jobs abroad, I felt like it just wasn't going to happen. But then I realised something. It's not my fault. Because whilst I've been playing Football Manager, my internet connection has been left unprotected. As a result, hackers have got into my Football Manager save and made sure no other clubs could offer me a job interview. How could I have been so naive? Luckily, this is where NordVPN comes in, making you safer online with one single click. It's kind of like a park the bus tactic, shielding you from malicious actors online. My personal favourite feature is Threat Protection Pro, which scans all my downloads for hidden malware and viruses, blocks malicious websites, and has blocked over 11,000 adverts and trackers in the last 30 days whilst I've been browsing the web. And with servers in over 100 countries, you can also access tons of region-locked content which you just wouldn't be able to watch without using a VPN. You can get NordVPN for as little as £2.21 a month on a 2-year deal, which gets you 4 extra months for free through my link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. A small price to pay to protect your best Football Manager tactics from being hacked. Plus there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there really is nothing to lose. So head to nordvpn.com/TomFMVPN right now to get the great deal. And funnily enough, as soon as I turned on NordVPN, a small club in France's 3rd division offered me an interview. We cannot mess this up, we have to say all the right things. First up, they asked me if my inability to speak French will be an issue. I said football transcends all languages, so it's not an issue. Then when they asked why I wanted to leave Welling, I went on the charm offensive and said I need to take the step up in my career and your club is perfect. And hopefully that is enough sweet talking to get my way into a new job. But the days turned into weeks, and I heard nothing until they offered me the job, which of course I accepted. Annoyingly though, I do now need to learn how to pronounce this team's name.
Union Sportive Queville-Rouen Métropole.
I think we'll just stick with Rouen. We're 13th in the table halfway through the season, so we need to stabilise and make a promotion push next season. We've got a great winger in Kyle Emerson and a stalwart midfielder in Christoph Vincent. We're setting the boys up in a 4-3-3 to make best use of our wide men and Vincent. We joined in early December and got off to a rocky start with losses to Versailles, Dunkirk and Troyes, all within our first month in charge. But as the players got used to the tactic, things started to turn around in January as we started to get really good. We didn't lose a single game in February and March, winning 5 and drawing 2. As a result, with 5 games to go, we're up to 6th in the table and in with a shot of the playoffs. But we bottled it. Bastia, Versailles and Boulogne, who were all rivals for our playoff spot, all beat us. In the end, we slipped down to 8th place, 7 points away from Versailles in 3rd. It is quite alarming that our 34-year-old central midfielder is our joint top scorer. We have a lot of work to do over summer. I let virtually every player with an expiring contract leave the club, as most of them wanted double their current salary. And I was very selective in who I brought in. There was way better value in the loan market than the permanent one. I'm pinning our hopes on 18-year-old Sami Ligarek on loan from Gangon. Hopefully Mihailo Petkovic, on loan from Rennes, will be supplying him with plenty of assists. We won our opening day fixture 2-0 away at Annecy, who had been relegated last season. Hopefully a good sign of things to come. But Sami Ligarek got injured in that game, meaning he missed the next few matches. But when he came back, he started scoring goals for fun. In his 8 games so far this season, he scored 8 goals. So rather than looking for a move away, I think we're going to see the season out here, because we're top of the table and are yet to lose this season. I reckon winning promotion will do us more favours than trying to find a better job right now, even if Rouen won't put me through a coaching course. We couldn't quite stay unbeaten throughout the season. We had a couple of losses sneak in to the likes of Boulogne and Dunkirk, but for the most part, Sami Ligarek kept scoring the goals. He was maintaining his goal-to-game ratio, which was pushing us even closer to promotion. With 10 games to go, we have a 10-point lead to second place. Surely the title now is inevitable. So of course, Sami Ligarek made sure we kept winning games as he kept scoring goals. We clinched the title in a 4-1 victory at home against Nancy, with our boy Sami grabbing a brace in the process.
Oh, a blue trophy lift.
With 4 games to go, we've secured promotion and a huge boost to my reputation. So I did apply to open jobs at Strasbourg and Auxerre, and they both offered me interviews. Both teams asked me similar questions, like why I've only worked with a small selection of clubs. I told them it's because I'm a very loyal man. They were also both curious about my motivations for leaving Rouen. I told them it's because I need to take the next step in my career. Remember, we need to win the Champions League within 10 seasons, and so far the closest we've got is winning the French 3rd division. Strasbourg and Auxerre were both tipped for promotion from Ligue 2, but fell below expectations. If we can get one of these jobs, strengthen their already pretty decent teams, and get promotion, we'll be in a European top flight by the halfway point of the challenge. And Auxerre have offered us that opportunity, giving me a transfer budget of 4.7 million. However, Strasbourg also got back to me, and they'll let me spend 56 million instead. So it was a total no-brainer for me. I am now the manager of Strasbourg. The first thing I did was sign Sami Ligarek for £5 million from Gangon to be our striker. And then I made great use of our affiliate link with Chelsea, signing Esteval for the right wing and Brighton Katima to play at left back. Following that, I went on to spend £30 million on some outrageous signings for this level. Because of all our talent, we're going very attacking with a 4-2-3-1. This squad should see us win the league comfortably. The boy Sami scored twice on his debut as we beat Angers 5-0. Esteval also scored early in the season as we beat Valenciennes 4-2 away from home. But the surprise package was attacking midfielder Sebastian Nanasi, who outscored both of them. The player is in his 5th season at the club, and he was frozen out last season and sent on loan to Seattle Sounders. But in my system, he was absolutely flourishing, becoming our main goal-scoring threat. While Sami has 8 goals in the league, Nanasi has 13 at the halfway point, putting us on top of the pile, 6 points ahead of Sochaux. But whilst things are going pretty well on the pitch, off the pitch, I'm a little bit concerned. The board refused to send me on a coaching course as they're worried it's going to be used to get a better job. That is how I'm going to use it, but obviously I won't tell them that. When I tried to argue the point, they then told me the club didn't have enough money. I mean, I only spent £30 million of the £56 million that they gave me. Surely they've got plenty of money left over to pay for a coaching course. In the second half of the season, Sami Le Guerec turned it up a level. He decided Nanasi shouldn't be the top scorer and instead took it upon himself to score a majority of our goals in the second half of the season, cementing himself as a legend of the challenge. So when we came to play Amiens, a win would hand us the title, but it didn't start well, as we conceded a goal just 3 minutes in. Thankfully the boy, Sami Le Guerec, could level things back up for us on the 10-minute mark, only for us to then concede another goal just 3 minutes later. 5 minutes after that, we once again had to rely on Sami to get us back on level terms, but he couldn't give us the lead. That honour goes to Luis Henrique, whose low shot beat the keeper at his near post. But disaster struck when 42 minutes in, we were judged to have fouled an Amiens player in the penalty area. It looked just outside the area to me. I think the referee is doing something fishy here. But justice was served when Anthony Lepeltier made a massive save, but he'd be in the firing line again just 3 minutes later when Valentini was adjudged to have fouled his man in the area and the referee gave Amiens another penalty. Another penalty that Lepeltier saved, keeping us in front. And this killed the Amiens spirit, which wasn't helped when Sami scored his hat-trick with a looping header to win the game 4-2 and see us crowned champions of Ligue 2. It was nice to have an actual trophy lift this time as well. We ended up topping the table by 13 points, with our boy Sami scoring 24 goals in the process to win the Golden Boot. At this stage, there are no available jobs that put us in a top European division, so we're going to stick things out with Strasbourg. But I feel like we've been lied to. Remember last season when we had 56 million to spend? Well, this season they've lowered my wage budget by £100,000 a week, and we've only got 4 million to spend. It turns out the season before I joined, they sold £56 million worth of players, which is why we had such an abnormally large budget when I joined. And it turns out giving me massive wages to sign a lot of expensive players wasn't a good idea. The club now have a bank balance of minus 13 million. So without big sales this summer, our hands are tied. So we should probably try to jump ships as quickly as possible. We signed Tim Goller on loan from Southampton as a backup keeper and Mihailo Lukic from Chelsea as a starting centre-back. We had a baptism of fire early in the season though, as we lost 7-1 away to Marseille on the opening day. We suffered 2 more defeats to Lens and Lille before earning an impressive 3-3 draw away at PSG, where we had been winning at one stage of the game. We were starting to find our rhythm, and Sami Le Guerec was finding ways for us to win as we beat Clermont, Metz and Troyes, as he scored against all 3 teams. By mid-November, we were comfortably mid-table and I felt like we'd done a good job. A good enough job to get a promotion. There's quite a few jobs available in the top 5 leagues, so I'm going to apply for the jobs at Cologne, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Freiburg and AC Milan. A day later, Freiburg came back to me offering a job interview, but they're obviously concerned I haven't managed in Germany before. However, I pointed out to how well I've adapted in other countries and they don't need to worry. But they did point out I have applied for lots of different jobs whilst being employed by other teams. But I went all guns blazing by saying I will not let anything get in the way of my ambition. Cologne also offered me an interview, but their big issue was the dressing room atmosphere is terrible, so I have promised to fix it and keep it healthy. They then called me out though, specifically for being in the running for multiple jobs right now, so I said I am merely considering my options. Although both AC Milan and Borussia Mönchengladbach didn't give me an interview, so it's down to just 2. Or make that 1, as my Freiburg interview was unsuccessful. So just when I was thinking we were going to have to stick things out at Strasbourg, Cologne came in and offered me the job. So it's time to leave France and head to Germany. The team are rooted to the bottom of the Bundesliga table, so to try and remedy this, we're playing a defensively sound 4-3-3. Our best player might actually be left back Lewis Hall. We're going to need his versatility to get out of the relegation zone. Because the reason this team is so bad is because there's 3 attackers for every position, but there is no depth in defence. I have 3 games in charge before the winter break, and the new manager bounce is real. We beat 17th place Schalke 4-0 at home with Mikhail Tadze scoring a brace, whilst the Lewis Hall penalty earned us 3 points away at Hamburg. But we didn't have enough about us to beat Bayern Munich. At least this moves us out the relegation zone and up into 14th. Then in January, I sold around £40 million worth of players to bring in some young talent. Manu Montes arrives from FC Andorra to play at centre-back, and whilst I was looking through the Andorran international players, I thought their keeper, Iker Alvarez, looked like a great signing, so I picked him up from Union Berlin. Marco Sculia will start at right-back for us as he signs from Como FC, whilst the strike force is bolstered by Raphael Moroni from Caen in France. I had tried to sign a certain other striker from France, but RB Leipzig signed him for more than we could afford. One day, I promise we will reunite with him. Finally, I can also get started on my next coaching course, which is way overdue. The second half of the season wasn't the huge turnaround in form I was hoping for, but the new boys were playing well, especially striker Moroni, who averaged a goal every 3 games, which for a team battling relegation seemed pretty good. The club have 2 of their own wonder kids from the academy. Centre midfielder Frederick Trapp helped us beat Nuremberg 3-1, and on the final day of the season, right winger Jascha Bollmann scored a brace as we beat Freiburg 4-3. As a result, we escaped the relegation zone by 3 points. But we now only have 4 seasons left to win the Champions League, and if we're going to do it with Cologne, we need to have an incredible summer, which might be hard to do as we only have 14 million to spend. So our hand was forced as we had to sell Lewis Hall to Saudi Arabia for 30 million. In the end, 6 others followed him out of the club on permanent deals, raising 82 million, 34.5 of which was spent on 8 new players, because a lot of it was converted from transfer budget into wage budget to get a lot of players in on free transfers. But I do find it hilarious that we spent £19.5 million on Nathan Collins from Barcelona. Only in Football Manager does Nathan Collins go to Barcelona. We've tweaked our tactic to be more attacking, so I think our aim has to be European football this season. But maybe we could aim for more than that. Badruddin Bouanani started the season strong, scoring a brace against Frankfurt in a 5-0 win on the opening day of the season, before getting the game's only goal in a win over Nuremberg. When he wasn't scoring, it was our 2 young strikers. We already know about Moroni from his exploits last season, and he scored 7 goals from 11 starts up until the winter break. But new this summer is Ludwig Lund, and the Swedish teenager was even more impressive, scoring 6 goals from 7 starts as he played backup to Moroni. He also scored a hat-trick at home against Hamburg. And even better, the club are sending me on my next coaching course, which might have been a mistake, because I think focusing on the coaching course proved to be a huge distraction. After the winter break, we lost games against Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund to fall away from the top of the table. But the title wasn't our aim. European football is the aim. So with 7 games to go, we hold a 6-point lead over Dortmund in 5th place. Well, we ended up losing 2, drawing 4 and winning 1 of our last 7 games of the season, with goals often coming late for the opposition to draw or defeat us. As a result, we fall to 5th in the table and miss out on the Champions League next season, which is frustrating because we only have 3 seasons left to win it, and we've not even taken part in it yet. So I think in season 8, we might need to jump ships to move to a team in the Champions League. And it just so happens that Barcelona and Inter Milan have jobs available this summer, but both clubs didn't offer me an interview, despite them both saying I'd be a good fit. I also didn't sell anyone this summer, so with a very limited budget, we only brought in 3 new faces. Most notably is the attacker called Hugo Cano, who I'm expecting will add a lot of firepower as we battle in the Europa League. But 2 games into the season, the RB Leipzig job became available as their manager left to join Barcelona. So I applied, and they offered me an interview, giving us a route into the Champions League, but more importantly, a route back to Sami Liga Rec. But they put me down straight away by questioning if I was ready or not for such a big club. Rather than throw it right back at them, I played ball and told them my roles at smaller clubs were building up to this. And if I was to take the job, they'd want me for the long haul, which I promised them would be the case. With just 3 seasons to win the Champions League, I think it's very unlikely we would leave RB Leipzig unless the Real Madrid job became available. But with a proposed budget of 109 £29 million, maybe we have all the spending power we need right here. So when they offered me the job, I couldn't say no. Finally, we are reunited with Sami Ligarek, who's been utilised on the right wing for Leipzig. That's because Benjamin Šeško has been the main man leading the line for them, winning the Bundesliga Golden Boot of the last 2 seasons. Either way, it is wonderful to be back with Sami, and the first thing he said to me when I saw him was, "I hope everyone watching this video is subscribed. I'll score more goals if they are." So I guess you'd better subscribe. In fact, the team is pretty stacked going forwards, and we're going to try and utilise that with an attacking 4-2-3-1. But the Champions League didn't quite go to plan. Kylian Mbappe destroyed us as we lost to Real Madrid, whilst Cologne decided to sell Badruddin Buonanni to Barcelona on deadline day, and he scored a 90th minute equaliser. We also suffered a 5-3 defeat to Real Sociedad, Spain 3, RB Leipzig 0. But we did win our remaining 5 league phase games, with Šeško scoring in each one of those 5 games. As much as I love Ligarek, we have to keep him on the right wing while Šeško is this good. Annoyingly though, we did miss out on the top 8, so we have to go through the playoff knockout rounds. Back in the Bundesliga, things were going pretty well. We beat Cologne 3-2, of course thanks to Šeško, but Mykhailo Mudryk was also getting in and amongst the goals, as he scored a hat-trick in a 3-2 win over Hamburg, and another hat-trick in a 6-2 win against Holstein Kiel. But it's only good enough for 3rd in the table, behind our former club Cologne. Back to the Champions League, and we destroyed Besiktas 12-1 on aggregate in the knockout playoff rounds, 4 of the goals coming from Šeško. In the round of 16, we took on PSG, as Šeško gave us the lead at home, but just after half-time, Musiala levelled things up for the Parisians. The unlikely hero of the night though was our right-back Watayu, who scored the winner in the first leg. The game in Paris was surprisingly easier. Šeško gave us the lead 22 minutes in, and after controlling the game, Samuel Vignato scored in the 72nd minute to make the 4-1 aggregate win look very convincing. So in the quarterfinals, we've been drawn against Liverpool, and at home, we once again outshone our opponents, with Mudryk and Luca Romero both getting themselves on the score sheet in a 2-0 victory. And when we took the lead 5 minutes in at Anfield, it looked like we were cruising through to the semi-finals, until Liverpool started to score. Florian Wirtz grabbed their first, before Simone Pafunde scored to make it 2-1 on the night at the half-time break. Victor Gyökeres then levelled the scores on aggregate, before Florian Wirtz put a dagger through our hearts by winning the tie 4-3 on aggregate for Liverpool. We're out of the Champions League, but we do still have a shot of winning the Bundesliga, because we beat Bayern Munich 4-1 at home, and then travelled to Cologne to beat our former side 1-0. Sami Ligarek then scored a brace at home against Bayer Leverkusen, but we didn't have enough about us to beat Borussia Dortmund away from home. Going into the final game of the season, we're 1 point behind Bayern. The title isn't in our hands, but it's still possible to win. We're at home against Frankfurt, where Vignato wins the ball on the halfway line 5 minutes in. He races forwards, gets tackled, but we retain possession, only being denied the game's opener by the woodwork. 10 minutes from half time, we can't make the most from a cross, but we put pressure on Frankfurt's defence, forcing the keeper to make a poor pass, which allows Šeško to score into an empty net. But annoyingly, Bayern Munich also scored just before half time to take the lead against Holstein Kiel, meaning they're still top of the table. And after a highlightless second half for us, our 1-0 win got us the points we needed, but Bayern also held on to their win to claim the title. Second place is solid though, and importantly, it means we're in the Champions League next season, where we now only have 2 seasons left to try and win it. With 30 players in RB Leipzig's first team, we need to sell the dead wood and bring in some stars. And doing my final coaching course might also help a little bit there too. So I sold £104 million worth of dead wood and high earners to bring in 7 players for £150 million, adding way better quality and depth to the team. Notably Marco Scullia, who had been with us at Cologne and has developed very nicely. But we have a tough run of games in the Champions League, so everyone needs to be at their best if we want to progress. However, things didn't start well, as we lost 3-1 away at Liverpool to get a horrible flashback to last season. Then Man City came to our place and won thanks to goals from Haaland and Lamine Yamal. This game just isn't fair sometimes. But we then were able to win our remaining 6 games, including a huge 4-1 victory against Inter Milan. That sees us secure 4th place in the league phase and go straight through to the round of 16. Here we travelled to Lyon, who were the better side. They took the lead just 3 minutes into the game, and then 3 minutes into the second half, they doubled their lead through Rayan Cherki. But we managed to pull one back with 20 minutes to go, which away from home would have been a good result, until Seawald found his man in the penalty area and Lyon scored to win the first leg 3-1. Then at our place, they made it 4-1 on aggregate as they opened the scoring 10 minutes in. But what followed was 15 minutes of magic from us, as Samuel Vignato scored not once, but twice to give us the lead on the night. Then Castello Lacaba scored from a corner to make it 4-4 on aggregate. The comeback was on, until it wasn't. Samuel Illing beat 2 men on the dribble to win the tie for Lyon and knocking us out of the Champions League. At this point, I thought the best chance we have of winning the Champions League was by jumping ships to a different team, but the only job available was Derby County, on the cusp of relegation from the Premier League. So we have to stick with RB Leipzig and hope that next season we can use them to win the Champions League, or we fail the challenge. At this point, we are close to the end of the Bundesliga season, and we're just 2 points behind Borussia Dortmund. And luckily for us, we kept winning games. Šeško picked up an injury back in January, which took him out for the rest of the season, so the likes of Ligarek, Mudryk and summer signing Junior Krupi were stepping up and scoring us the goals. The only issue is, the defence didn't step up when it mattered. We played against Dortmund and lost 2-0. With it, we lost our shot at the title. But we don't care about the Bundesliga. We're here for one reason and one reason only: to win the Champions League. So we need a superstar to help us with our final push. And I think I have the right man in mind. Ludwig Lund has decided to be the second coming of Pele. At just 21 years old, our former player at Cologne, who we signed as a backup, looks absolutely insane, and he's transfer listed for just 123 million. Luckily, we can afford his desired £375,000 per week salary, but annoyingly, he took less money to go to Manchester United instead. You think you know a guy, and then he just betrays you like that. So instead we look for inspiration in defence, and trigger the £104 million release fee clause of Man Mountain Johan Zimmerman. The 23-year-old agreed a £350,000 per week contract and joins the club. And that is pretty much all of our transfer budget gone. So if we want to bring anyone else in, we have to sell players. But I quite like this team and I don't want to sell anyone. We're also going to find out if Ludwig Lund is going to regret his choice when we play United in the Champions League phase. Our new boy Zimmerman actually opened up the scoring, proving he was the better signing, but maybe United are the better team, as they scored twice to win from behind. Annoyingly, Marseille also beat us 1-0 in the league phase, whilst we drew 0-0 at home with Real Madrid. Šeško was on hand to help us win our other 5 games though, including convincing 4-1 wins at home against Seville and away at Monaco. But this wasn't enough for a top 8 spot. Instead, from 10th place, we need to go through the playoff knockout round. Here we're up against Porto, and thankfully in Porto, we won 3-0 thanks to goals from Mudryk, who scored a screamer, a close-range tap-in from the main man Šeško, and a powerful effort from Junior Krupi just inside the penalty area. At our place, Samuel Vignato scored the game's only goal, and we progress as 4-0 winners on aggregate. In the round of 16, we're up against Arsenal, but we only drew 0-0 at home. Against the odds away from home, we scored the only goal of the second leg to sneak through to the quarterfinals as 1-0 winners. Our route to the final is now clear. We have to beat Manchester United and Ludwig Lund in the quarters to have a shot at either Barcelona or Spurs in the semi-finals. In the first leg at home, Castello Lacaba gave us the lead from a corner. Then in the second half, Mudryk extended the lead with an effort from the edge of the penalty area before he missed a penalty in the 79th minute. As a result, of course, Ludwig Lund scored late on to reduce the deficit to just 1 goal. Then in the second leg, United scored first, putting us under pressure and making me really regret putting Junior Krupi on penalties. But 3 minutes into the second half, he redeemed himself by scoring to put us back ahead on aggregate. And then in the 90th minute, Benjamin Šeško powered home a header to give us a 4-2 lead, which was needed because United scored moments later. But luckily, we scraped through by the skin of our teeth 4-3 on aggregate. I guess Zimmerman was the better signing to make in the end. In the semi-finals, we drew 0-0 away at Spurs, so whoever won the second leg was going to the final. 37 minutes in, Junior Krupi opened up the scoring with a close-range effort. And we continued with the close-range theme as Sami Ligarek scored not once, but twice from close range to thrash Spurs 3-0 and send us to the Champions League final. Incredibly, it actually comes down to the final game of the video to decide if we're going to win this challenge or fail. All that stands in our way of victory is Manchester City, who have Haaland, Lamine Yamal, Camavinga and Chevalier, just to name a few of the world-class players in the starting lineup. And they showed how world-class they were as the ball was worked out to Yamal, who quickly got the ball into Haaland, who knows where the back of the net is. But straight from kickoff, we had our own chance to get the ball out wide and drive down the far side of the pitch with Junior Krupi. His cross was met by the header Šeško, but his header went just over the bar. Again, Man City causes issues, this time though through the middle of the pitch, where Camavinga ended up being the furthest man forward, and he was only denied a goal by the woodwork. Then at the other end of the pitch, Nicholas Seawald had a free kick that was just tipped behind by the keeper. At half-time, City had been the stronger of the two sides, but not by much. So I thrashed my arms at the break and told the boys I expected better. And 66 minutes into the game, they were better. Man City tried to play the ball out from the back, which allowed Junior Krupi to win the ball off his man, sprint into the penalty area, and get fouled, earning us a penalty. Up steps Benjamin Šeško, who slots it home to get us back on level terms. But it didn't last long. A free kick was played out wide, and the cross was met by the head of Haaland, who gave City back the lead. With 10 minutes to go, it's time to take off Mudryk and Ligarek, who have played awfully, but Vignato and Weeper couldn't make the difference. In the end, Man City defeat us 2-1, and we fail the challenge. So close, yet so far. With a time-restricted challenge like this, sometimes you're not always going to win. So I'm challenging all of you lot at home. Reckon you can do a better job than me and win the Champions League within 10 seasons, starting unemployed. Reckon you can do it? Prove it. In the meantime, I was challenged to win a different Champions League with a team from the smallest country in the world. I'll give you 5 guesses. You are not going to guess the country or the team that I've been sent to manage. So click this video on screen to find out where we had to go.